trucks and the sanitation as well.
Thanks
so much. All right, let's talk more about this now with member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican Congressman Donovan of New York. Congressman, good morning. Good to see you. I just want to get your reaction, first of all, as someone who sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, to this NBC News reporting that Donald Trump wanted to know why we couldn't increase our nuclear stockpile.
Good, Joe. I think, your reporter just hit it on the head. The president has said we have an aging military. He feels the military hasn't been supported by previous administration. He wants to rebuild it. He was at a meeting at the Pentagon, as you've reported all morning, July 20th, and he saw a chart that showed how our capacity was in the late 60s and what our capacity now is. He said, why aren't we building it up to that? He listened to his military leaders. He never ordered them to build up the nuclear capacity. I think that's what part of being the president is. You have to surround yourself with very smart people. He has great trust in our militaries like John Kelly, General Mattis. He listened to what they said and never ordered a buildup of our nuclear arsenal.
So you don't believe the president will push this to build up the nuclear arsenal? He was just inquiring about it?
I think he listens to his military leaders. If his military leaders said, yes, Mr. President, we need to increase this, then I think he would have ordered it. But he has great trust in military leaders. You can see he's surrounded himself with folks who have gone through our academies, who have led women and men into combat. So he has great belief and great trust in those leaders, and I think he was being advised by them, and he listened to that advice.
Congressman, like all of us here, you have great respect for the American military, and
yes, sir.
President Trump appears to have great respect for the American military. President Trump is also great at tweeting things. I wonder if you have any explanation at all for the fact that since 4 Green Berets were killed in Niger, President Trump has not tweeted a single thing about the loss of these 4 special people.
No, I think that's unfair, Joe. I think he has a special place in his heart for women and men who risk their lives for our freedoms, including those 4 Green Berets. I think when he tweets when he wants unfiltered messages coming out because he has a distrust. But you cannot condemn the president for what happened with those 4.
I'm not condemning him. I'm just curious that he finds the time to tweet about ESPN hosts. Right. And the media in general, and, not tweeting about the loss of 4 special forces.
Yeah, I just think that because he believes that his communications directors and his messages, for something as serious as that, gets delivered to the public the way he wants to, and other messages don't, so he delivers those messages himself.
All right, and by the way, Congressman, that was Willie Geis asking that first question.
Oh,
that's okay.
I'm sorry.
And Mike Barnacle. So what we'd like to also ask you about is Senator Corker's comments about the president potentially bringing us toward the brink of World War III, that he's concerning. And also, it's not a question of trust in the generals. It's, I think, at this point, a question about his intellectual and emotional capacity to lead. So what is your response to Bob Corker's comments?
I don't know where that comes from. I think we're pointing a finger. The real devil, the real villain in this is the leader of North Korea, who's been launching rockets over Japan, some of them landing in the Sea of Japan. He's, in the past administration, we had this patient waiting strategy, which certainly emboldened him. And I think the president has taken a stance. I think he's, again, making sure that America's a world leader here. That evil person in North Korea is not just a threat to the United States. He's a threat to China. He's a threat to the Korean Peninsula. He's a threat to our European allies. He's a threat to the entire globe. I mean, the president had President Xi from China down in Mar-a-Lago earlier this year speak to him about needing the help of the Chinese to put this to rest and stop the violence and the threats that are coming out of North Korea. So I think he's taken a leadership role in this, and he's looking at allies, and he's looking at some people that we have some differences in.
So with all due respect, my question was about Senator Corker. Are you saying that he's not? Are you saying his comments are not credible?
No, I don't know where Senator Corker's comments are coming from.
Well, he's head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee,
and I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House, and that hasn't come from our leader. So I don't know what Senator Corker's based on. I'm not saying that it's invalid. I just don't know what he's basing that on.
Congressman Noah Rothman with Commentary Magazine. You might be aware that the president's former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, has targeted just about every member of Congress in his mind with primary challenges from the right, from the populist right. Your district is among them. Former Congressman Mike Grimm, who pled guilty to a charge in court and resigned from Congress, is trying to make a comeback. Do you fear a primary challenge? Do you think that this is a viable threat to your incumbency? And do you think other members of Congress should be wary of the power wielded by Steve Bannon and the populist right?
Well, I think if Mr. Bannon will examine our race and look at my record, I've supported the president 90% of the time in my votes. I supported the funding for the wall. I supported the travel ban. I supported immigration reform. I certainly am in favor of tax reform, the thing that the president's trying to do now. So I think rather than listening to rhetoric of a convicted felon, I think Mr. Bannon would probably examine our records and see that I've supported the president 90% of the time. And I think the people of Staten Island, Brooklyn have a clear choice. They have a choice of a person who was a prosecutor for 20 years and put people in prison, and the choice between that and a person who went to prison. So I think at the end, the people of Staten Island and South Brooklyn will look at my record, compare that to my opponents, and I'm very confident we'll be successful in the primary.
Congressman Dan Donovan, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.